7 amendments, did you say?
Nikki and I are live watching a couple of people argue in Alabama House, and we don't know how long this will go on. But we wanted to come on to say hi. There's cannabis legalization news going on, so we got a quick episode for you today, and then we're just going to have some fun watching history. Let's go to history.
And some of those actually do strike off portions of some of the House Judy Amendment, and I expect some.
How boring is history?
Will probably come to this floor today.
So for the folks watching, just knew the guy on the left. Is he like because he's kind of moderating in the conversation, right? Because the guy on the right speaking up against it right now.
Expect that.
Right.
Judy
guy on the right speaking up against
legalize. Health committees looking
at it. They're filibustering the special order calendar and debating on adopting the calendar. Evidently, they got about 30 minutes left, and it will pass, and then they will debate the bill, and then that will pass. Then the House floor debate starts. This might go on for a few hours, with Che Garrington or Garrigan is reporting.
Dude, they're filibustering the shit out of this. So the guy before this was asking this. So I think the guy speaking right now is probably behind the bill somehow, like maybe, defending the bill. And the guy right before this guy was like just questioning stupid questions like, so how did this article get up number one? So this article is number one in Alabama's amendments, or not amendments, topics for the day, right? So first thing they have to address is this cannabis bill,
right?
And all the ones are like they're questioning first with that, like you said, filibustering. They're like, how did this become a thing? Who decided this? Like, does that fucking matter? What you should look at is the bill itself and question, how does this help my constituents?
Yes, seriously. The reps are acting like this is the first time they've ever heard about a medical bill. This is the same bill that passed out of several committees that, if you've been watching our show, you've seen us reporting on now. This bill has gotten out of various committees, 2 of them, and now the members are acting like they never knew anything about it. They're like, what is marijuana?
Well, the guy speaking now, did you see where he's like, I just came in from Florida, which is not that far from Alabama.
No, it's not that far,
folks. But he's all like, I just came in from Florida, and my friend's kid overdosed, and, marijuana was the gateway drug. Like, come on, dude. First off,
normally you see a mainstream
full of shit. They're just making up bad allegory stories. What up, Hong Kong? Good morning, Angel.
Very strong, extreme positions left and right. And, my experience is that data usually on both sides is not usually something that I can trust. So I try to look for something that's more dependable, more trustworthy down the center. Normally that's better to go on. And so, for example, on this one, I look at National Highway Safety and Traffic Studies. I look at CDC because those are things that we all routinely look to for studies. And you look for organizations who traditionally do deep dives into issues that we all look to. Council of State Governments, a number of those type of traditional groups. And
hey, Miggy, let's entertain the people by planning a trip to your neck of the woods. While we don't thank you for your time, and Garrington is saying this is going to go on for a while, and I sent her out the StreamYard link so she might join us. An activist from Alabama might be coming on, but Miggy and I are trying to iron out how we're actually going to get to this fish show, and so I'm not sure if we'll be able to. I know that they don't have the camping, so like, how do you drive to the gorge from Seattle? So
it's a straight shot to 90, bro.
Straight shot on 90. So like if the gorge is kind of over there, then we probably are going to be coming up back towards Ellensburg and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So then I guess we just kind of like check, and because like the campground sold out. Can you believe that? The campground sold out, guys.
Hey, Josh. What up, dude?
What up? Alabama's broke. Talking Hedge. Oh, Josh, can't wait to come out and see you. It's on or around July 18th. So Miggy and I were trying to talk about when we're going to, or how we're going to get to the Fish concert and then get back from the Fish concert, because I don't think we're going to be able to camp out there. So yeah, there's basically the Gorge Amphitheater there.
He did talk to Josh, dude. I imagine he's been to the Gorge. Like he's from out here. Like I've only been out here for 10 years and I've never been to a show there. My wife has, but I haven't.
Yeah, we might want to see if he could be the 4th person that comes along.
Right. Yeah, there we go. Oh, what we got going on here now? Is it we're on mute? Hey, do you notice how the guy going for common sense is wearing a mask and the people against it aren't? I'm just
maybe they're fully vaccinated.
the way the bills typically line up are the speaker makes picks, I make picks.
I'm having a hard time hearing you up here. There's a lot of background noise. Can you get a little closer to the mic?
Yes, sir. I'll try. Is that better?
I swear to God, country folks can be so rude in such a casual way. I'm a little old. Can you please speak slower? I mean, they really interrupt the debates, the conversations. Again, filibustering type shit.
Yeah, each member will then make a single pick. And so that is normal. That's been a normal part of the process as long as I've been here. And so that's what we proceeded. As far as today, once again, the first picks are typically the speaker's picks. So obviously this is a speaker's pick bill.
First pick.
And that's one of the prerogatives. That's one of the benefits of being speakers. You're allowed that.
First pick of the
once
bills.
again, that is not something new. That's something that has been consistent for many years since I've been in this body. The other thing, as far as rules committee goes, a special order calendar can.
Yeah, I bet you. I've had good weed in the South, dude, and I imagine if Bama gets a legal market,
so it can be changed.
Good on you,
That
folks.
is actually
Well,
within our
Bama's
rules,
getting a legal
within our
market. It
House
looks
local
like
rules.
Louisiana's getting a
And so,
legal market.
as far as the
Louisiana's got a
rules
vote
go,
coming out. They
everything
just
that has
passed
been done
their.
as far
No,
as
that's Texas
the
that's going
calendar
to change
is
their flower.
procedurally correct.
So the
There's not a
South is
violation
starting
of
to
any
break
rule
everywhere.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
As far as the change that happens, I mean, frankly, especially at the end of session, there are members who've been here a lot longer than I have that are sitting in front of
Welcome
me.
to
It's not unusual
2010.
happen from
Yeah.
time to time in session. And we just simply have to kind of roll with it. So we're at that point to where this is the first bill up, and it is what it is.
It is what it is. I mean, come on now. Like, why are you defending why it's the first bill up? This is semantical at this point.
I'm not surprised that a lot of people are concerned and upset about it when we had such a short period of time.
Kids.
Why this was all delayed to be announced.
All delayed to be announced until yesterday, despite it getting out of a couple committees and being legalized all over.
How else can we fuck with the blacks? Oh, wait.
I'm really curious.
Did I say that out loud?
Leadership thinks we're going to have an intelligent vote.
Come on, Louisiana. Get up here.
Preparation in this.
Well, the one thing
Alabama.
that's done,
Shit.
and
Also, God damn it.
fast as it can be done,
It's
is
also
at
fast.
the moment the decision was made. I don't.
Chase said she's going to hop on here in a bit and join us. Yep. So we can ask her about the bill. She's one of the lobbyists down in Alabama. It's going to be pretty good.
Cool fact. Change that out consumer. She's fighting for the plant and doesn't smoke.
Yep.
I believe within moments.
She believes in it.
Yeah. She believes in it. Civil liberty, just common decency. Like, this is not. It's like, why are we?
My understanding is
Do we argue about murder? We argue about rape. This is not a crime. This is not a fucking thing.
They were aware that this
Certainly.
floor sub and
And about what time was that yesterday? Do you know?
I honestly don't know. I was one of the jobs I have at home is that I'm a judge, and so I was actually judging at the time while all this was played out, and I stepped out to make a phone call to learn about this in between the case, and so I had to go back and continue judging.
Again, we're gonna watch this.
Stepped out to make a phone call, and then he continued judging. I tell you, that's one of those things where he's having this feeling right now.
Nah, dope.
Yep.
So
This is not easy reading.
okay,
Your style of reading as an attorney that you're used to reading, and I'm sure with your.
isn't the majority of Alabama Republican? I mean, it's a Republican heavy state, right?
I do.
Yeah, it's
You know the pitfalls. You know the words to look for, and
I mean, I really hope
trigger your
this
curiosity.
is why you need lobbyists to talk to the ones who, because not all
That's a huge
are
issue.
bad people.
Well,
It is.
the issue to me is we've got
The ones that are in election denial. I'm just
we
saying.
had originally 20 bills on here that a lot of
Literally
members
20
of this
bills.
body here put a lot of work into
How did the marijuana get in front?
that. This one's going to have a problem seeing the light of the day. All right, just going over them here.
These
This
threats.
is filibustering at its finest. They aren't saying anything. I'm just surprised they haven't delved into just being like, what, Senator, you have lovely shoes. I like how they have laces on them. Are those burgundy, or is that just a brown shoe, Senator? Anything else I can do to delay this vote?
No, man, it's going to be a minute. I like to recite from the poetries of Dr. Seuss.
Yep.
but that one's important to those guys. Next one.
Yeah.
It's like 384.
Being a politician is like being a crazy grandpa, right? Like where you just like wander off in your speech. Whoa, wait a minute.
Education Retirees Trust Fund.
Make sure your back's okay. Use your knees, lift your legs. Before we
Retire
do all that, stretch. Make sure you
created
have a good breakfast and all before that.
Treasury as permanent trust to fund periodic bonus checks for education retirees. Duty of the board of the TRS Board of Control.
Oh God, this is busting, right? He's just rambling off the fucking amendments. No one's actually having a discussion about the topics.
Right now.
So this is being that this is amendment number or the choice number one. This is their debate right now. This is the moment where they could be debating the actual topic, right?
Elections qualified.
Like this is how the legislature process works. We bring up an issue, then if you don't like it, you bring up actual facts and things. Instead, these guys are wandering off in grandpa land.
That's what you do. You just wander off in grandpa land and you just make sure that nobody gets anything done. And you just go, well, I'm very confused by what's going on now. Did you take my pills?
But isn't this, I mean, this is like the whole, like the past 4 years where most people are like, I don't know that man. I mean, this is how these guys operate.
That guy.
I didn't.
How did I vote for legalizing weed?
Seriously though, like there's got to be accountability. And this, I think, we need to bring these politicians accountable. And I think Shay would be the woman to help bring these people accountable. Well,
she can at least explain how long this filibuster is going to be. We probably aren't going to stay live for 3 hours if it's 3 hours, but it appears that today is going to be the day that Alabama legalizes medical marijuana, which is fantastic.
And if they don't, they got to hold their goddamn legislatures responsible and be like, remember that time you voted no against your people? You voted no against patients? You voted no against civil liberties?
Right. Voted no against all these nice people. And then meanwhile, I'm still live on that one. And I'm trying to figure out how I could pull up another piece of documentation that I'm looking into while I'm also managing the shop. So I have people like asking me questions and I'm like,
that's good.
But it's how the industry is.
Hey, we should, Shay, you ready to come on?
Let's see. All right. Let's bring her on.
Competitive bids further provided.
Hey.
All right. Well, let's make sure we don't go loop on this. Are you also listening to Shay?
I am. Yes, I am.
I'm trying to mute mine then.
Prisoners.
So, what's your opinion so far as this process goes, Shay?
Oh, good. I mean, this is unbelievable. They're acting like they've never heard anything about medical cannabis in Alabama before at all. They're like, they need time to read this bill, and we've had 3 years that we've had public hearings after public hearings. I know that my association and the people that have helped me have emailed every single one of these House of Representatives along with the senators and, met with them face to face to make sure that they really understand what this bill is doing and what a complicated process it is. And now, right now, they're just talking about how the how the rules chairman is choosing to put the medical cannabis bill on the top of the list. And
right, I'm correct though. This is the moment where they can debate against it. If they really had an issue against the goddamn cannabis for anything, like this is your moment to say it instead of going, whoa, where'd this come from?
Right.
So, that's exactly what they're doing. They're saying like, oh, well, we had no idea that there was a medical cannabis bill at all. We've not known anything about it. Nobody's told us anything about it. And I heard him debating something about how all these emails were sent out, and and he's like well, what
magically got out of committee. It just magically got out of committee.
2 of them.
Yeah. Right. And so that's interesting. Can you tell us more about what's in the bill and if it will pass tonight and how long this might go on?
Well, it's going to pass. One of the main things that we're concerned about are what these secret amendments are going to be, which if I had to guess, it'd have to be something to do with Delta 8. So everything else seems to be way over everybody's head that they're talking about.
So they're gonna legalize medical marijuana, but they're gonna prohibit Delta 8 hemp.
Yes.
Okay, now that's a trade-off. Do we have a lot of conditions for the medical marijuana? Is there going to be a lot of different types of licenses, or is it going to be more like Georgia with just 2 types of licenses, or like Florida where they just have one big license?
Well, see, nothing like those actual issues, nothing like that has come up. So it's the bill's probably going to remain the same that it was. They're debating on trying to push it off to not hear it today. And it's in a conflict with the gambling bill. They're wanting to hear the gambling bill. They're wanting to be able to sit and state. So,
but it's a win-win for them. Money. Like either way, like just let it happen, bud.
I've got my my webmaster. She's recording all of this, and this is definitely something that we're going to have to go back and point out to everyone, because what these guys are saying, I mean, they're just acting like, oh, I'm somehow one day I woke up and I'm a House of a Representative member, and I just came to work one day and I guess I'm representing all these people in the district, and I have no idea who's been calling me about this medical cannabis bill. I mean, especially when Delta 8 broke out a couple of weeks ago. I mean, I know that they know there's farmers out there that are dealing in Delta 8. So this medical cannabis bill is not anything that's anything new, but they're seeming to put on a very good show about it.
Like you didn't send in like legislative ninjas to slide paperwork into the speaker's agenda for the day, and like, oh, surprise, marijuana.
Wait,
like this is big. Oh, I was just making a bad joke as far as like you sending in people to secretly interject, because the process is just long and haggard. Like I'd met, because you're essentially a lobbyist. Like this whole process is just freaking.
I could do a stand-up comedy show on it. I mean, seriously. Are you kidding me? You're telling me we sat in the same room and you're acting now like you have no idea the medical cannabis bill that's going on. I mean, it's unbelievable that they're even trying to pull this stuff. So, I mean, because it's live, everybody can watch it. So it's kind of like, look at Alabama's, representatives. I mean, and I made a post out there on Facebook. I was like, you guys be paying attention to who your representatives are saying, because they're not listening to their constituents whatsoever.
Now, this bill, it's very limited, it sounds like, because you said you didn't get into the specifics about the types of license or the qualifying condition. How long is this medical cannabis bill?
Well, I mean, it's like 95 pages long. It started off at like 72. So, remember there was a time when I had sent it to you like a couple of years ago. And so it hasn't changed much from then. I mean, and I know that there's been a lot of time that's passed, but it hasn't changed since then. So, we've got 5, there was 4, but now there's like 5 vertically integrated licensing. And out of the 5, those vertically integrated license can have about 5 different dispensaries. But now, see, those are the complicated and actually the very most important parts of the bill that they're not even discussing right now. They're wanting to know. I mean, they're wanting to know.
Like, what is marijuana? I've always heard bad. Why isn't marijuana bad anymore? Now, medicine, I'm confused.
Well, one guy did come on there and he said, see, we had about 23 district attorneys that came out against medical marijuana, and I made a post.
District attorneys are who you turn to for medical advice. Yeah. I had some chest pains lately. You want to call a doctor? No, get the district attorney on the phone. I want to ask a lawyer who prosecutes criminals about my medical condition.
And I'm familiar with who these district attorneys are, and and you may have heard of the story about the man that was arrested for driving through Alabama and playing the air guitar. And he spent about four years in jail here. And he's not a resident here, but he had an out-of-state medical marijuana card. He was a Purple Hearted vet. Well, that's one of those district attorneys, and every one of those I'll say -1, let's put it that way. But I put out there that this is the top dirtiest district attorneys in Alabama. So they all have a story. They put themselves out there, but
well, these guys are acting like
they don't have any influence on this bill whatsoever. I mean, the things that they wrote about is like we're still talking about gateway drugs. So.
They're still talking about gateway drugs. Let's go back and see if that's still what they're talking about, whether or not it is gateway drugs.
You're gonna vote your beliefs and what your constituency want. I've seen you do it.
Now, look, these Democrats are getting all over the.
She's good.
I'm going to do so in a way. However it turns out, it turns out. And I don't have a problem with that. That's what we're tasked with doing. But to run away from a bill, I've never stood here to ask
running away from the bill.
Except for that John Patterson resolution. In 12 years, have you ever heard me come to this microphone and ask to have a bill removed off the calendar? I might come here to say
it's like getting yelled at by your aunt, dude. Like you're just like, ooh, stop.
But they asked, they're like,
But
can
I
we get
never
this bill
come
off the
here to
calendar? It has
question
to do with weed.
the authority of
Seriously.
the chair or the speaker with regards. We are
But
just
these guys are acting like, to Shay's credit, who's been advocating, like you said, years.
abstain.
These guys remind me of like in Austin Powers when that little car is coming real slow and he's all, no.
I've asked time and time again.
That's what reminds me of.
Yeah. Well,
Bullshit.
Jay, do you think this is actually going to, after all the grandstanding, and you said it might be delays of 3 hours, do you think this is actually going to pass?
Yes, it is, because they would not be kicking up a bunch of a fuss, because now all these members are going. They've got to have their say, because this is the very end of the session, and a lot of them have been treated dirty about their bills. Their bills have been ignored. You had someone talk about healthcare, some of the Medicaid bills and some different things that have not been listened to. And now they got up and they said one lady, I think it was Senator Gavan. I really want to get that right, because she was wonderful. And she got up and she's like, I am so happy to stand here and say that all these Republicans are using this as a chance to filibuster a bill that we've been talking about all session long. And, we wait to the very end of the session to talk about the most important bill of the entire session. And that's exactly right. So, and she goes, I'm going to take as much time as I can. And if y'all want to leave, you can leave, because we got enough votes to pass this bill.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And so what do? They ask to take a little break and to take it off the calendar. And thanks for joining us in a special historic episode where Alabama legalizes medical marijuana. Hopefully it's 20 past the hour somewhere, because then it is.
Yeah, I wanted to have some medicine. It's a good day, though. I mean, the South is going to have some good weed. Now, Shay, are you going to be involved in the industry once it actually comes about? I mean, you're in a good position to be part of the regulation and be part of a voice.
I'm not going anywhere.
Nice.
Well, I tell you what is, we are going to have to make a change. On cannabisindustrylawyer.com, you can go to our map page, a map of marijuana legality by state. And then when you're there, sign up for our newsletter. But currently, Alabama is this little lonely state right here, where it doesn't have any medical marijuana, and it's surrounded by Mississippi that just legalized. And I get so many calls from Mississippi about trying to get a cannabis license there, and we're waiting for regulations to come out. So I'm not taking any clients from Mississippi. I'm like, we don't know enough yet. But then there's Alabama, and you're saying there's just going to be 5. Are there 5 vertically integrated licenses?
Yeah, well, that's right now. But I mean, as much as they're debating, they're going to have all that. There's no telling what can change. I mean, because now we haven't even gotten to the amendments, the magical amendments that are going to be.
It passing is still a foot towards legalization, no matter what. Because, I mean, you're still just fight ignorance 1 foot at a time. I mean, 1 step at a time. It's like, hey, look, they legalized it. Oh, okay, no one died. Oh, we got to cap the THC still. Not capping it. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're trying to find things, but you can't find a real thing that's an issue. Why was this thing why is prohibition, right? There's got to be some methodological, like, they're looking out for your betterment reason why prohibition exists.
Oh, it's the Salem witch trials.
That's it.
You're a witch.
I think the people that are involved in the industry, I mean, they're paying to keep it illegal, because, you can come into this state, you can set up shop, you can build a multi-million-dollar processing plant on the borders, and you can pretty much do whatever you want to, because there's no regulations to stop you from doing it.
As long as you're paying out the right people. That's it, right? Like, if you got the cops in your local cops in your pocket.
They don't even tax for the hemp license right now. If the guys wanted hemp license, they pay $1,000. They get a hemp license. I mean, so whatever they do after that, they do after that.
Like you're saying about the amendments, though, with the Delta 8, Washington State, and it's something policy you have to read, but they just, for whatever reason, the regulatory body here had an issue about Delta 8. Like bitches, it's already federally legal. Like, everybody fucking trying to go through like this whole, like, we got to dissect hemp and all the cannabinoids. My bad. I'm sorry. Prohibition didn't cover everything. Like, what the?
Yeah.
Well, when we get to Delta 8, I wanted to tell you, Tom, that you did a really good video. You did a really good YouTube about what went on up in Kentucky. So
yeah, the Kentucky one was bad. And so like now I got some clients that we're following up with, and we might have to start helping Kentucky operators move out of Kentucky. But then it's also there will be some type of action filed, I would imagine, against the right board. But then it's like, well, which one do you do? Because is that, you know, you'd have to look into whether or not that was like some type of advisory rule. And so like what relevance? I mean, first you'd have to do research as to like what actually the thing is that happened. I mean, he gives you this opinion as to what they say the Department of Kentucky's Agriculture believes. That doesn't necessarily make it so. And then as a result of that, now we have this new opinion. Is that going to be met with some type of administrative review? But I don't know if like the opinion of the general counsel from the Department of Agriculture triggers administrative review. I'd have to research that issue, but then it's also this prejudicial aspect, this unconstitutional taking that they've done. And that unconstitutional taking is a more straightforward action, because it's like, hey, you gave us this license. We invested all this money. You just told us what we're doing is a crime. Therefore, I think you owe us now. Like, you know, we invested all this money in infrastructure. And so you've taken this. There was no due process, no opportunity to be heard. And then that might like, would that action qualify as an ex post facto? He can't make a law. Like the general counsel to a department in an administration, they can't make laws. And so it's just bizarre what they did. And I had like a LinkedIn ping from one of the lawyers that's in Louisville that I'll have to like follow up with on these types of questions. But yeah, it very well could end up in some litigation. But I still think that what's going to happen is we're going to have a definition of THC in the next farm bill. And that's what they're going to do to address it. Because it's not Delta 8, it's Delta 10, it's Delta 11. It's some things that they'll be like, shut up, Tom, don't tell them about the other lesser ones. I'm like, fine, yeah.
But do you think it's just because of the Delta shit, right? Like the CBD, CBG, like you don't see them crushing on that. They're more focused on this whole Delta. It's a sister brother of THC, which it seems kind of dumb.
Yeah, I guess, but it's still just all a byproduct of the past. It's the
right.
past regulating science they didn't understand, and we're still having to deal with it.
Well, and yeah. But what's your argument? How you laid out that letter that was written in Kentucky is something that is a good example for the other states to really pay attention to.
Right. Well, I'm hoping that I get to do that with Chuck Schumer's bill eventually. And then hopefully there's some really interesting movement in Illinois' lottery system here in the next month. I'm trying to get a deal swung on that, but I just don't know if they'll go for it.
Do you guys think like once, because state by state, but then the federal thing coming out, Schumer, whoever, safe banking, as this whole federal blankets state, right? Will it be like an eventual, like, okay, marijuana and hemp, the same commerce, right? Because I mean, essentially it's the same plant, just different varieties of CBDs and THCs and all the other stuff. Will there be just an overall one department of?
I don't know about that. Like
in Alabama?
Or like I could see it being in the Department of Agriculture, but it has FDA implications too. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a medicinal plant. And so like it's a plant, so that's agriculture, but it's medicinal, so that's like FDA. So somewhere
there's medicinal.
Yeah. Do you mean like, well, in Alabama, like the Department of Agriculture, even though they have it written in the bill that the Department of Agriculture is going to hand out, it's going to be responsible for handing out licensing. Well, when you talk to the Department of Agriculture, they're like, no, we're not, because that would hinder our federal funding.
Oh, wow.
We're still dealing with a Schedule I drug. And so, you know, it's kind of interesting. But, you know, apparently the guys that are debating this bill on the floor, what have you, are debating, you know, to have this on a special order calendar. They just read it on the way to work today.
Yeah.
But they're not even debating. They're saying, why?
Wait, he's testifying. One of the fearmongers is testifying.
Plant for many years. I was totally, utterly, completely unaware of the benefit, which I believe
this Mike Ball.
Oh, wow.
Is the purpose the plant was created. There are some things there about which
he's the sponsor.
No, nice. It is being unlocked daily. What I did when I got this email, the first thing I did was I called my assistant and clerk, Cliff Richard. You know, he did the he did the devotion here the other day. And Mr. Speaker,
he's kind of meandering now.
I wish
And
he
so
did
like this guy is in support though.
sometimes,
He's not
but
arguing against.
At any rate, I called
He's a sponsor.
and I said, I've got this email. Would you help me give this lady a response as to why we can't do this and look into this CBD?
He's starting up
And I
how
was
he's
surprised when
interested in medical cannabis.
Oh wow.
Cliff said, there might be something.
CBD, the gateway to fucking legalization.
And he gave me a couple of leads.
Jesus.
Well, understand at that time, my heart and mind was set against it.
He educated himself. Holy crap! Look what happens when you actually look into it and try to prove someone wrong.
I recognized what it was. And I
He's a former state trooper.
months
Oh,
before
God.
I ever got to the point where
The
I
guilt must be ridden in that one.
I would be unable to live with my conscience.
Well,
if I didn't do everything in my power
he's also worked with hostage.
to help these
He's
people.
heavy into law enforcement.
Right,
He
not
got a
all
letter
drugs.
from- He got a letter from a grandmother that had a child that had epilepsy, and it
I'm
moved
a
him.
career law enforcement guy. I'm not a
Wow.
lawyer. I'm not a doctor. There's so much stuff that I don't know anything about. As a matter of fact, the more I learn, the main thing I learn is how little I know.
What a wise
But
man.
when you do
Holy crap.
something that you know as an investigator, that you can count on, that's proven, then you can follow it. And the one thing that I knew was that these people who possess this substance for this reason should never be under fear of being prosecuted and put in jail for it.
Woo!
Damn.
And so I crafted a bill that was very, very narrow in its scope.
I'll craft a beer, goddammit.
A cannabis beverage.
I would have thought that I was opening the gates to Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah.
Damn.
And quite frankly, I was maybe I'm naive. I was surprised at how the opposition was. And
Wait, what is medical in California? Was that 97?
I also knew that I had to do everything in my
98?
power to move this. Well, it was an election year, and some people that
Welcome to 98, Alabama.
changed their mind and told another. And in this place, people will not always be honest with you. They'll hide their cards and they'll manipulate. But that's the process. It's the political process. But as this bill got closer and closer in the process, it came to my understanding that it was destined to die. And I will tell you, it just broke my heart. Fortunately, I don't know who all it came from, but some people decided, hey, we can't do this decriminalization for these people, but why don't we put $1 million a year in the education trust fund budget so we can study whether there's anything to this or not. And I was glad of that and 100% supportive of it. And I knew I wasn't going to get nothing with this other. And I said, yeah, that's great. But in my mind, I was hoping. I had already gotten acquainted with so many people who were suffering, who could be helped. So I decided, I was hoping and praying that this study would be a way to get the oil to some of these people to relieve these seizures.
This was in 2016.
Wow.
About a year, once the bill passed, we was high-fiving and celebrating, but it took a year for UAB to get this study stood up. Dr. Jerzy Szlavarski was.
There's an actual study? You guys actually did a study?
There was a study. However, the people that advocated for that study, their children did not qualify.
I think in his mind,
They live in Oregon now.
snake oil. He wasn't. He had really not researched it much at all. But he was over the research, and the DEA and the FDA, and they were doing all these things to get it restricted and down. And I will tell you, some of the measures that they had to put in by regulation,
Lenny's law and Carly's law, and it's
was like you were
you
guarding
from becoming prosecuted if you have CBD oil with you.
But at any rate,
Jesus
the law that he's
Christ.
talking
through
about.
the process, and
I think you were handling nuclear waste.
when the study opened up, I found out that Lenny Young
Yes.
was another one of those families that did not qualify for the study. And it broke my heart. Lenny Young, for those of you that know
That's who started his
if you've seen the picture
interest.
Damn.
me and Lenny
Fighting for this.
right after the Carly's Law passed the Senate, she's the little girl in the picture. And I found out that Lenny didn't qualify. So her family was going to have to move to Oregon.
Damn.
We call those, they were refugees from Alabama.
Yeah.
They live in Oregon now.
A lot of people have done that. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
so many refugees
And it
to
really
Colorado.
breaks my heart. But they've moved to Florida.
Damn. That's some heartbreaking shit. Tom separated. I think we lost his audio because he exited the screen. So that's all good. Let me see if I can add him or add the screen. What up, Shay? No.
What up? I'm
Let
so
me-
glad that you guys. I've been like by myself, sitting here going like, "What?"
No, historical, amazing stuff. Like we really try, and it's about the message, and that's why we're here. So every state's important. We're all Americans. Like we all want everybody to be equally treated and have equal rights. I mean, that's the whole
Safe access.
Well, those are the stories that you would hear about. You hear so many stories like that. Carly's Law, the Dustin Chandler, his child, he's former law enforcement. So
Same way in Jersey. Jersey has their medical law named after somebody. And if you're watching in a state that needs more medical cannabis, for example, Texas, create a new name for that law, for that bill, because this is what it is. It's framing the whole story about why they're doing it and personifying it very, very at a very human level, And I think that's just something that they don't necessarily always do, but you see it a lot in the medical marijuana laws throughout the country.
But it's what's proposed. It's what propelled the conversation and the argument. It has been kids and sickness, right? Like a long time ago, Cashy Hyde from Montana, his parents were the first ones with the RSO, RIP. He passed on because they couldn't just, the treatment, right? And then later on, Charlotte's Web, when the realm of caring came about with the CBD, right? That's what really got really renowned because they customized a strain of a high CBD that was proven for the seizures, and it's always the kids, and it's always something, and sometimes it's too late.
She died of COVID. I remember that. So
yeah, it's just there's so much why there's so much pain and suffering have to prove that this thing is not the cause of the pain and suffering in our fucking world. It's not.
Well, I was on LMC the other day, and I was telling about this story in Alabama where it really changed me and the way that I was seeing what I do is that this woman told me about a friend of hers that has a child that's in a district of a representative that apparently is going to be doing some grandstanding show today, and the child was 5 years old, was on hospice and was not looking very well. Well, the mother gave the child THC, and the child came off of hospice and lived for another couple of years. He has passed away since, but this mother was not wanting to come forward because she feared prosecution. And I was like, it gives me chills right now because she didn't want to tell her story because she was afraid that, she would be looked at as giving her child THC or what have you.
Yeah, it's just wrong. But it is 4:20 in Central. It's if you're in the Central time zone.
This topic is so heavy though, and that's the thing is you need to take a break every once in a while because like you were saying in your fight and you learn how frustrating it is these kids and the parents and the victimization. The problem is you just had a legislator literally just say it's a gateway fucking drug still.
Yeah.
Right. We're we're not in fucking 1930.
No,
This is 2021. 20 minutes ago.
What they do is they're going and they're doing Google scholars, what do I need to say to be opposed against medical marijuana?
I'm against it. Give me a reason. Any
Google
reason.
scholars, I like that.
It's a gateway drug. It is. If it's a gateway drug, then it needs to be regulated, just like alcohol and tobacco is. So.
Yeah. All these knuckleheads got the same talking points, and they're all probably from Sam. They probably have some script they can read because no one really investigates, like the gentleman speaking now, who said he went and did research and wanted to help his constituent, and turns out, oh shit, maybe we shouldn't be arresting people, whether it's recreational or medical. Like it, all use is medical use. It's just the thing is, like, when I started advocating, I honestly just didn't want to go to jail. I'm like, my life shouldn't be ruined because I'd rather do this than drink, at least when I was younger. And like, this is way more better for the world if I do this than the other thing. But yet somehow,
I'm just wondering why anyone would care. Why does it matter if somebody wants to smoke or drink or whatever they do? There's people that do a lot worse behind
We are
closed
so
doors.
good as humans in judging other people and telling them what not to do. And it's just what it is. And so, like, this whole lovey-dovey hippie free, do whatever you want to. No, there are rules, and there are bad people and good people. It's stupid. It's completely off base, but yet, like, 80% of the people just kind of believe it without question.
Well, that is what is the most amazing thing, is that people will actually, that's one of the number one things I've learned, is that, when you start putting this rhetoric out there and you start tainting information, that's the number one thing that I really picked up on when I was sitting in one of these public hearings. Is I was like, wait a minute, they're sitting here trying to compare this to opioids, and I had no idea how damn deep Alabama is in opioid deaths. I mean, we have lost more people to opioids. We write more prescriptions for opioids than we do the population of the state, and so we lead the nation in opioid deaths. And
you guys would see a double-digit decline in opioid deaths if you had safe, lawful, convenient access to cannabis.
Definitely.
Like, I am fairly confident that the data that has been observed of just that in every other state before yours would also happen in your state.
And they always say that opioids is like, they actually still are pushing for opioids. They'll say, that cannabis is that's not an alternative. Well, nobody's really saying it's an alternative to opioids, but it is something that should be tried, because the way this bill is written out is that when people, they've got you listed. They're saying that you can be listed on DHR if you're into a child custody case, if you're a medical patient. Which we'll have to look into that. It just sounds really like an invasion of privacy.
If
Along with law enforcement can have your, if they pull you over, law enforcement has access to your car tag, your tag, and they can, if you're under the influence of medical cannabis, then, you automatically are going to have some type of charge or something. So, the people that would actually put themselves out there and be on a medical cannabis program here in the state of Alabama, they've tried everything else. They've tried every type of they've tried every type of medication that there is, pain medication or what have you. So they're wanting some alternative, a complete pharmaceutical alternative. And I have not been able to find a reason as to why it is not available to anyone, except it's a controversial topic and nobody has a very good reason for it. The guy that got up there and said he's talked to his pastors and his Sunday school leaders, and I was like, yeah, I have too. They call me and want to know how much it is to buy, they want to be involved in growing medical cannabis or growing hemp. So because somebody's left land to the church, and that's the better rate of return if they can grow hemp or.
But doesn't it says something though with cannabis, with the prohibition of ignorance that you're facing still in Alabama, like this stigma, this bullshit stigma, because there's all these recreational states, there's all these billionaires out there, there's a lot of money, the world's not collapsing. When Tom and I met, Tom wrote under a pen name. He wrote a legalization book under a pen name, and he was also asked by the firm that he was working for, please don't ever support marijuana anymore. And at the same time, I've been right under Miggy 420. It's still a thing where you can lose your job and lose your livelihood over some bullshit. Like that. If I was a breast cancer advocate, never have to hide it. I could wear breast cancer t-shirts all day, give out pins, talk about it all day. I can't do it about cannabis. I can't talk about.
No, you're wrong. Look, I've been doing it about cannabis now for a while, and then you put together a package and you charge for it, and it goes just fine. And so it's a different time to be alive. I mean, like, people call you a lot more, and then it's why I had to dip off for a call. That's how it is doing a live show. My voicemail no longer works. I switched to T-Mobile so I could get on 5G. And then the only thing that I know that is really happened is that if you call me and it goes to voicemail, no, it doesn't. Just leaves.
Right on. Hey, where are we on the debate now?
I bet we're on the debate where somebody is either shocked. Oh no, it's still the same guy. He's still
Oh
testifying.
wow, he's got a long platform.
I mean,
He probably is going to start criticizing a lot of the members.
Nice. Call him out. Call him out.
Research and it did wonderful things to help people along the way. I rise today just simply to provide information from a number of groups in the state of Alabama.
it looks like nobody's
that
talking
have
now.
tried to weigh in on this process.
I think the speaker.
The people of our state who are listening would hear the messages that.
Let me just try a refresh on that. But no, it almost like there was an audio playing.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Out of the food
Oh, wait. Maybe it's a commentator.
administration approved process. Marijuana is not regulated by the FDA, therefore its purity, potency, and
Neither is CBD.
cannot be reliably verified. And
But if you had a legal market,
well as risk-benefit analysis.
Right.
See, these same arguments have come up in both of the committees that have been broadcasted, and I mean, and one of the representatives, his name is Chris England. He's the head of the Democratic Party. I mean, he turned one of the doctors around, and she was saying, "Oh well, I recommend, not prescribe, because I recommend CBD to my patients." And so, I mean, I'm having a fit there, texting some of the representatives and being like, "Who does she recommend them to?" Because I already know that my guys that I deal with, that the doctors recommend CBD to their patients. They just recommend it to them. So anyway, he said, well, it took us 2 years to sit here and figure out that is actually something that is a benefit to the patients here and to the children that have epilepsy. It would be a shame if it took us another 2 years.
This is exactly why the coronavirus was as bad as it was. Because this is how humans are. We're terrible. We're just terrible. I remember I said like 80% of them just don't care and they need it that way. So this is what we just don't change. And we try to go about our business. Oh my gosh, I got to get Harriet to soccer practice. There's like so many things. Like I don't got time to deal with this now. And then stuff just gets pushed down. And so like they didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to hear it. And then they just hear more of it and they still don't want to hear it. And so can we just take this off the list for today so that we can continue it until tomorrow? And that's, you can only do that so long and so far. But I bet it goes on for another few hours. And I wanted to thank Jay Garrington for coming on and telling us that you're 100% confident before the end of today, May the 4th, 2021, Alabama will have legalized medical marijuana.
Well, if we do not, I will tell you that every one of those House members, they will be looking for another House seat next year. They will not be in the same one because there's too many people that are pushing for this. And let me tell you, if it comes down to gambling and medical marijuana, people need to have an alternative to medication. I mean, and I'm not against gambling, but if it comes down to it, medical marijuana is very important. I mean, it is an extremely important bill, and they have been very well aware of it this whole entire session. I mean,
yeah. Well, this bill goes to the governor, right? Or is it got to go through the Senate first still?
It'll go to the Senate, and they'll have to go over some of these. So they're going to try to put something out. I mean, you hear kind of the talk that they're talking. They're not actually talking like, hey, will this kill anybody? Is there lives that we can save? And how much tax dollars can our district make? And how many license can we get more license to grow in our area? I mean, like those real issues that, how many can we weigh in on who's going to be on the commission and those type of things. So there's, yes, I'm very confident this is going to pass, because if it doesn't, then we're going to be back on here for some other
They should be asking is how they regulate. How should we regulate? Like that's all they should be asking. Like that's the conversation. And again, the guy was
off to the commission. They're like, well, we're going to get a commission to do this.
Right.
We'll have a medical cannabis commission, and they're going to be the ones that write the rules and regulations. But this is the way we want it written. So
yeah. I mean, if you're gonna have a real debate about something, don't just be like, well, can we put it off until I don't read it again? Like,
but that's it. That's the newest tactic in perpetuating prohibition is delay. It's just like litigation, except it's even more expensive.
Well, the one thing that we do have going for us, and one of the ladies brought it up, is that she said we could be here for a special session still arguing this. Well, if we're there for a special session still arguing this, then we just need to really cut it short. Both the House and the Senate need to agree to put it to a vote and let the people decide in the state of Alabama. That's going to be what we do. And so that's what we're going to all be pushing for. I've got to get every grassroots organization pulled together and, get something like that. This is the first time I've said anything about it. You guys are the first to know, but this is going to be the next thing that we do. If it does not pass, we'll go to a special session and just change the Constitution and put the people to a vote, because whatever they're talking about, they're not talking from what their constituents have had to say to them. I mean, that they are absolutely going against everything their constituents are telling them.
Awesome. Yeah, man. Yeah. Miggy and I have a great episode tomorrow. NJ Weedman is going to be on a pre-recorded show. Check it out. And thanks again, Shay, for tuning in. It looks like Alabama is going to have a vote in the House of Representatives, the House chamber today, and it's probably going to pass. So Alabama voted to legalize cannabis. See you next time.